Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the single most idiotic argument that anyone could ever make in regards to defending a video game. And it's an argument that you see for any major game that has a big group of fans. Whenever a controversy erupts and people start arguing about a game, which is inevitably pretty much any game, at some point you'll see people arguing back and forth about it. But the argument that comes up in every case, you will see somebody making this type of argument when they're trying to defend a game that they are a fan of. Oh yeah? Well, how many games have you ever made? Now, it is mind-boggling that people still use this argument and think that it holds any water whatsoever. It is the most ridiculous, the most asinine thing that anyone could ever say when you're trying to discuss criticizing something. So let me get this straight. For anyone who tries to use that argument, do you understand that if you logically follow through the progression here, that this also means that you yourself, if you go out to eat and you don't like your meal, well, that means that you can't criticize that. You have to be thankful for the meal. You have to talk about how great it is and praise it, unless, of course, you are a trained chef. Because you see, if you're not a trained chef, I don't want to hear you criticizing your meal. How dare you? Do you understand how hard the people in the kitchen worked to prepare that meal? I mean, do you even understand how hard they worked? You better not criticize anything unless you're a trained chef. If you go to the movies, I hope you like every single movie that you've ever watched, unless, of course, you're a Hollywood director. Do you direct movies professionally? How many movies have you ever made? Zero? Zero? Is that the answer? Okay, then I don't want to ever hear you ever criticize any film or any director. Ever. Don't like an actor in one of the films? I hope you have your Screen Actors Guild card. Oh, you don't? You're not a professional actor? Well, then I don't want to hear you criticize about any acting, ever. You have to just accept that every role that's ever been performed ever is just great because those actors work so hard. And obviously, their performances are all Oscar-worthy. And how dare you criticize them? What about music? You like every song that you've ever heard, right? Unless, of course, I mean, do you play the guitar yourself? Do you play the drums? Are you, in fact, in a band? Are you a musician yourself? Have you been classically trained? Have you played at Carnegie Hall? I hope you have. Otherwise, you're not fit to have an opinion about music. Now, does this all seem pretty stupid? Does this sound stupid? Yeah, that's because it is. All of this is ridiculous. And no one would make that argument. No one would ever say, oh, you can't criticize any meal that you eat unless you're a chef. No one would ever say it. You want to know why? Because you eat meals all the time. People watch movies all the time. People know what they like and what they don't. Same thing comes when it comes to video games. People know what they like and what they don't. And if people have a criticism about a game, if your only rebuttal is how many games have you ever produced? Well, that's asinine. That is asinine. Here on YouTube, I've gotten a lot of criticism for a lot of videos I've made. People get mad. I've had angry Bethesda fans. I've had angry Last of Us 2 fans. I've had angry Anthem fans, believe it or not. I've had a lot of angry people leaving me comments over the years. But you know what I've never responded to anybody with? Oh yeah? Well, how many YouTube videos do you make? I'd like to see your video library. What do you have? What content do you have on your channel? I've never once said that. Because it would be stupid. It would be idiotic. It would be the dumbest possible retort I could have to someone criticizing me. Period. And yet you will see this comment in any discussion about a game, especially if it's a major game. In any discussion, you will see this constantly. I've seen it myself, not only on my own channel, but on any channel at all that discusses The Last of Us 2 right now. If you go in the comment section, you will see people down in the comments, and this comment will be thrown about inevitably in every comment section. I don't understand how anyone thinks this is a salient point. I honestly don't. Have you thought about the logic or the lack thereof involved with making a comment like that? How can you say that someone can't criticize something unless they do it themselves professionally and have produced a similar work professionally? That is asinine. Can you not criticize the construction? If you walk into a house and it's falling down, can you not criticize the construction of it. I mean, you can apply this to literally any other field, any other business. At the end of the day, people like to forget that we're buying a product here, okay? You can criticize anything that you buy. It's still a product. You can say it's art, but that's why I pointed out a bunch of other things that are, in some ways, an artistic endeavor, whether it be culinary art, or musician, or movies. These are all artistic endeavors. And everyone is allowed to criticize them. Just like everyone is allowed to criticize a video game. And just because you like it... I've had a lot of games that I like, and people be like, oh, I don't really like the game. In fact, a buddy of mine recently, I tried to get him to play Bloodborne. I really like Bloodborne. He hated it. What I didn't say to him was, you're an idiot. How many games have you ever made? How dare you judge this? No, I accepted it. He doesn't like it. Okay. I joke around and be like, oh, well, you're wrong. Oh. But I'm just messing around with him. But I'm sitting there questioning his ability to judge for himself whether or not he likes a game. The sheer stupidity, I mean, it is mind-numbing that no one can accept if somebody doesn't like something. Or the common retort, oh, I guess you didn't even play it. Why don't you try playing it? Why is that a default position? That if somebody says they don't like it, that means that they didn't play it? All this does is feed into the ridiculous mindset that people seem to have, where if you're not falling over yourself praising a particular game, then obviously you didn't play it, or obviously you just suck at the game, or obviously whatever it is. Instead of just accepting that maybe somebody, it's not to their taste. Why is this so difficult? It's like Troy Baker on Twitter. You know, just making a fool out of himself with that ridiculous tweet talking about how you can't criticize something unless you're the man in the arena. I didn't see him tweeting anything about that the week before the game came out at all the critics who were giving the game a 10 out of 10. He wasn't making those comments to those people at that point. So I guess if the critique is all positive, those critics, totally fine. But if there's negativity, oh, you're not in there. You're not the man in the arena. How dare you criticize my art? Like, get off it, man. Get off it. Let me also point out something. Troy Baker, for weeks, was telling people, after the story got spoiled online, oh, you gotta play the game in context to really get it, man. You gotta know the context of the story, man. You gotta play it, man. And then, the day the game came out, he was on a spoiler cast with Greg Miller and Neil Druckmann, and within the first 2 minutes of the podcast, he admits that he actually hadn't finished the game himself. So, well done, Troy Baker. Well done. That is the exact type of mindset that goes into the people who pose these sorts of arguments and this is their debate tactic. How dare you criticize? How dare you? Shut up. Just honestly, shut up. You sound ridiculous. People are allowed to criticize anything. Guess what? Did they pay for the game? Did they buy the game? Yeah, they can criticize it. Absolutely. Now, obviously, don't go overboard and start threatening people. Obviously, I don't even know why that needs to be said. But here's the other thing. To everyone in the industry and everyone who with the concern trolling about the online threats, I mean, come on, people. Stop using the extreme outlier of nutcases who actually send threats to people on Twitter and act like that represents the hundreds of millions of actual normal gamers out there. Stop. Stop. Because that's all the conversation ever shifts to. Oh, look at these threats. Come on. I mean, obviously, no sane person is doing that. So stop trying to paint all critics as if they are those extreme people. Just to try to wiggle your way out of criticism. This happens every time a major game developer feels like he's being unduly pressured. Or she's being unduly pressured. Whoever it is. They always will turtle up and be like, look, I'm being threatened. Okay. I could make a video, I guess, if I wanted to, of the people who were threatening me physical abuse over my Last of Us 2 review. Because there were some of those too. And I'm just a small-time YouTuber. You know? And people were threatening to hunt me down and assault me as well. I'm not going to make a pity party video about it and be like, you can't criticize my review, they're threatening me. That's just babyish, okay? If you're putting anything out there, you're gonna take heat. And people are like, oh, that's a weak argument. No, it's really not. That's just how it goes. That is life. People are gonna criticize you for anything you do. You just got to deal with it. Now, if the criticism isn't valid, that's one thing. If it's completely false, or just something ridiculous like, I think you're an idiot, lol. That's not really criticism. That's petty little insults. That just blow that off. That's no big deal. But if someone has legit, valid criticism of a product that you made or a game that was developed, I'm sorry. You can't just paint everyone with a brush like they're some sort of extreme outlier who's just, a hateful troll or whatever. And people are like, oh, well, don't you feel grateful? You have to feel thankful they made the game. Like, first off, just acknowledge and be thankful that they made the game. My thanks came in the form of my $60 purchase. Thank you. That's where my thanks comes in. After that, it's a product that I buy. This ridiculous deification of game developers and the products that they make really has got to stop. It's sort of a sick complex that people have. I understand. Hey, I love video games too. I don't worship developers. I don't worship games. If you want to criticize a game that I like, go for it. I'm not going to take it personally, but so many people seem to take games that they like personally. If someone criticizes it, stop letting yourself become so wrapped up in the identity of a video game and the online conversation that it lets you think that everyone is just out to get you. If you like a game, go ahead and like a game. If everyone else hates it, who cares? I've said this before. I bring this up all the time. I like State of Decay 2. I don't know anyone else that does, but I'm not sitting there and be like, I'm so persecuted by these critics. Why can't you guys see how brilliant this game is? I like playing the game. No one else I know does. Cool. I can still enjoy it. Everyone else can hate it. That's not going to affect how much. It doesn't affect me. And it shouldn't affect you either. And if it does affect you, take a step back and disconnect yourself from the game. You are not the game. It's okay. If somebody doesn't like a thing that you like, it's okay. Anyway, that's it for me, Coach Toolshed. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please subscribe. If you want to stay in tune with the channel, head forward. And as always, keep it turned to 11.